How's it hanging, YouTube? This is King of Feral Imps, and I'm here with a how to play video or combos video for Gustos. This is, of course, one of my most favorite decks, just because it's really cool. Now, of course, this is my personal fun build, but a lot of this can also apply to the general decks or the usual decks. Mostly Gustos, a lot of cards end up being sort of gimmicky and some of the strategies as well, but of course they end up working really well because they just because it's mostly a fun deck, but it does have some neat cards that you can tech and end up working out really well. Now, this is the same deck that I used in for the deck profile recently, except with the addition of I will be going over some stuff just with a triple Dogoran, just a simple Kaiju. I need to check the guy's name who suggested these because they work pretty well with it for some of the things that you can do with it. I'll go ahead and put your name right like here in post. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and get started by showing you a few simple things. So very quickly, I just want to mention these are your main searchers. They all special summon a different monster. They have different effects. So YuGiOh is when he's on the field and sent to the graveyard, you special summon one level 2 or lower Gusto from your deck, so you can bring out either Eagle or Winda, but mostly you'll want to bring out Eagle because his effect is when he's destroyed by battle, you special summon a level 4 or lower non-tuner Gusto, so Winda, and then Winda's effect is when she's destroyed by battle by an opponent's attacking monster while in your control and sent to the graveyard, special summon one Gusto tuner. So normally you'll want to bring out YuGiOh, so then they loop that way. YuGiOh to Eagle, and then Eagle to Winda, and then Winda back to YuGiOh, and it loops like that. Now, of course, YuGiOh can summon either of these, and then Winda can summon either of these, and then Eagle can summon some of the other ones, but that's your basic thing that you want to go with. So I'm just going to go over really quickly one OTK that you can do using these 4 cards. Now, the only setup you'll need is YuGiOh to be in the graveyard or on the field, but very likely he'll be in the graveyard. And let's say that whatever you summon off of his search doesn't matter so much, and you have these. And of course, your opponent's going to have a monster. So, you do play 3 copies of all 4 of these, so there's a good chance you'll draw into them. But mostly, you're going to want to just have like these 2 in your hand, and then YuGiOh in the grave. And then here's what you can do. So, before you do anything, tribute your opponent's monster for your Kaijus. Normally, it might not be something with this much attack, but you're going to need like Dogoran because he's got a hefty 3,000 attack. So what you do is sack your opponent's monster, whatever it is, for Dogoran. Activate your emergency teleport. Special summon Pelika. Pelika's effect activates to special summon YuGiOh from the grave in defense mode. From there, you synchro summon for level 6 Freeze. Freeze's effect activates. You target YuGiOh in your grave, add him back to your hand. You still have your normal summon, so normal summon YuGiOh, and then enter your battle phase. Now, this is important because Freeze, as long as she's on the field, your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving Gusto monsters, and that does include herself because she is considered a Gusto monster. So, from there, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your YuGiOh and ram it into Dogoran. That's going to inflict 2,500 damage to your opponent. YuGiOh goes to the grave, his effect activates, and from that, you summon Eagle, and then Eagle, you do the same thing since you're still in the battle phase. That is going to inflict 2,800 damage to your opponent. So 500, 2,000 you've inflicted now. Eagle's effect, and then summon Kamui. Now you can summon any non-tuner Gusto, but Kamui just works out because he's got he's got 200 attack. So it's very low, and then from here you can inflict another 2,800. So I don't know the exact math that adds up, but then from there you can go ahead and attack with Freeze, and then that's just the last bit of damage that your opponent needs to take, and then they've taken well over 8,000 damage just by you attacking into the monster that you gave them. Now, I need to say something very quickly. Now, the reason the reason that you summon Dogoran first is because Pelika's effect is that when she's summoned or normal summoned or special summoned, you get to target a wind tuner monster in your graveyard and special summon it in face-up defense position. You can only use her effect once per turn, and then for the rest of the turn, you can only summon wind monsters. So that's why it's important to summon Dogoran to your opponent's side of the field before you do anything else. and it does say for the rest of the turn and not during the turn you activate this effect. So let's go ahead and clean this up and get to the next thing. Another fun thing you can do is with these 4 cards, let's say same scenario, your opponent has a monster, and say you have these cards. Now, with the emergency teleport or the Gusto Goldo, you need emergency teleport if you don't have Goldo, or if you happen to have a Goldo on the field and then have a level 2 tuner in your hand. I'm using Psychic Jumper. You could use Falco, try and figure out some build that works with him, but currently I use Psychic Jumper as my level 2 tuner. He also has some good synergy because he's Psychic. So let's say that this is a setup. Say that we need to bring him out. So, normal summon Goldo, sack our opponent's monster for Dogoran, creature swap our monsters around, E-Telly brings out our level 2 tuner, and then from there we can sync for a level 10 in Leo, and Leo's just a huge pain for your opponent, and then you can attack into your Goldo, and Goldo will get his effect, and then just start the special summoning train from there, and you have a great Leo, which can't be targeted, because only during main phase 2. Now, in this deck, you sort of do need your main phase 2, but you can kind of go on without it. If you do have a floater, then you can have some decent defense or some decent pluses after that. So, let's go ahead and clean this up. Now I'm going to show you the power of the single Goldo and what he can do to bring out a nice doubles freeze. So let's say you have Goldo, your opponent has 2 monsters on the field. They enter their battle phase and they want to just get rid of your stuff, or they're not super wise to what your deck does. First attack, Goldo dies. Goldo's going to summon Eagle. Next attack, Eagle dies, and then he can summon Pelika. If you know that they don't have anything else to attack it, or they might not destroy this in their main phase 2. Then Pelika's effect activates. It's whenever she's normal or special summoned, even during your opponent's turn, and then triggers to special summon Goldo. Going into your turn, you have the setup, so you can go ahead and synchro summon for a freeze, activate Freeze's effect, add back a Pelika to your hand, and then normal summon her since you haven't used the effect this turn, summon Goldo, sync again for a freeze, and then you just have a double freeze on the field, which becomes very annoying for your opponent, and you can just go ahead and attack for some minimal damage, and that'll hold you off with a good defense, and like I said, be very annoying for your opponent. And you can go ahead and, of course, that's all just off of one card, the Goldo. Likely you'll have a lot more on the field, and then maybe you can even get rid of your opponent's stuff. Say if you have a Regeki, you can use that now, and then just have some solid 2000 beaters. That can't be destroyed by battle, and will reverse the damage as long as it's battles from a Gusto. So, on to the next thing. I also just want to take a bit of time to talk about this card, Telekinetic Power Well. Now, I think I went over this briefly in the deck profile, but basically what it is, it's rekindling for psychic monsters. There are some limitations, though, that you can only summon level 2 or lower psychic monsters, and then you take some damage that was 300 times the 300 damage times their total combined levels. So for 2 or 1 or 3, it's not so much, but then if you want to fill up your field with 5, that can be quite a bit. How much exactly? That's 10, so you're going to take 3,000 damage, but it's a better return than Soul Charge. However, again, they do need to be level 2 or lower psychic monsters, but at least this is also a quick play. So one interesting thing you can do, well, first of all, here are the targets that I am playing. Psychic Jumpers, which is the tuner, which is important why I'm playing Psychic Jumper, as opposed to Falco. Then 2 Kamui, and then 3 Winda. So that's very good. Say your graveyard's full, go ahead and use this, and then you can bring out a decent amount. You can bring out 2, and then make a level 4 synchro. Or you can bring out 3, and then that makes for a level 6. So you can go ahead and sync those 3 for a Freeze, which is great, and then Freeze will go ahead and add 1 back to the hand, or maybe another Gusto monster. So this is essentially just a Freeze for how much damage? That's 6. So that's basically a Freeze. You do have to pay, some life points, but at least you just get it, and then in addition to whatever else you have. And again, that's off 1 card. And if you're feeling really daring, like I said, you can bring out a whole field of 5 monsters. So that's 10, so you can go ahead and sync all of those for a Leo, and then get Leo, not for free, it's going to be a 3,000 life point Leo, but just to have him on the field and off of 1 card is just really, really good, because Leo can be really annoying for decks that can't handle it or get over it. Yes, there are answers to it, but for the most part, it's a free Leo. Anyway, for the most part, that's been it for this Gusto combos, how to play, just various interesting things you can do. Now, I would have liked to show off more, but in the end, it really just matters. It depends on what your opponent happens to have on the field and how you want to deal with it. Say, do you want to keep stalling with your floaters? Do you want to use some cards to shuffle them back into the deck, recycle them, and keep going? Do you want to disrupt your opponent by taking or getting rid of their monsters? Or do you want to build some really annoying defense? It really all depends what you want to do. And then, of course, when you want to change from defensive to offensive by summoning just a bunch of big things. That's just sort of how the deck works. Mostly it's defensive and annoying, but then when you're ready to go on the offensive, it switches relatively quickly and can pull out some great things. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content, remember to subscribe. Also leave a like and a comment to show your support. Also, I may be updating this deck later this month just to show off what I'm doing and maybe with these guys, but we'll see where that goes. And anyway, this has been King of Feral Imps. Have a nice day.